Hello all, my name is Dr. S. Yamini, Director Academic, School of Computer Studies at RVS College of Arts and Science, Sulur, Coimbatore. I am delighted to welcome you all for this webinar series on Foundations of Artificial Intelligence. It's an initiative with the vision of bringing AI knowledge to everyone in every corner of the world by our Managing Trustee and the CEO of Transform Tech Private Limited, Dr. K. Sendil Ganesh sir. Let God be with him always to make this happen. In the last webinar, we have learned about what is descriptive statistics, what are all the different kinds of measures in that, and how to calculate those values. Today's webinar is all about an intuitive understanding of descriptive statistics and how it can be misleading if used wrongly, and which kind of descriptive statistics to be used on specific situations. Why to use descriptive statistics? In most cases, there is more raw data. It would take a while to digest. In such cases, we use few numeric values to summarize the data that is called as descriptive or the summary statistics. It is simple, easy to understand, and provides limited information. It gives us the manageable and meaningful way of understanding the underlying phenomenon. In today's webinar, we are going to see about two topics mainly. One is measures of variability, the other one is bivariate relationships. We start with the measures of variability. So if you want to understand that, first of all, you have to know what is central tendency and its limitations. So we start with the question, which is more appropriate in measuring the central tendency of the data set? It depends. Take an example for that. Suppose if you are working in an organization and your boss has given you two enormous files of data. One file contains the warranty claim information of your company's printers. There's about 66,335 printers which is sold during last year. For each printer sold, the file documents the number of quality problems that were reported during the warranty period. The other file has the same information for each of the 9,75,687 laser printers that your competitors sold during the same time. Your boss wants to know how your printers perform in terms of quality compared to your competitors. We can start solving this by using any kind of statistical packages, namely Excel, SPSS, R, Python, etc. Usually, all of us will start with describing the middle of the distribution or the central tendency. The most basic measure for calculating the central tendency is mean or the average. In this case, we are going to measure the typical quality experience for your printers compared to the competitors. So in this case, we have to calculate the average number of quality problems reported for each printer for the year during the warranty period. And this value has to be divided by the number of printers sold, because at this point we have to remember that each printer can have multiple problems as well while under warranty. So we will end up with the most creative descriptive statistics that is called as average number of quality problems per printer sold. So if we do this, we'll end up with the answer as your competitors' printers have an average of 2.7 quality problems per printer during the warranty period, compared with your firm's average of 8.9 reported defects. So at this point, if you see this result, you may be wondering, it means your printers having more problems compared to your competitors. So are you going to report the same to your boss without any further analysis? No. So you have to think for a while before doing that. Because what you can understand is, and how you arrive this is, you have analyzed so much of the information from millions of printers from two different companies and distilled to the essence of the problem. And what you understood from here is your printers break a lot. Your company's printers break a lot. But if you get into further analysis, one point may come to your mind. That is, mean is more prone to distortion by outliers. What is outliers? The extreme values. Low values are the high values, which is farther from the center. That is called as outliers. Mean is easily getting affected because of the outliers. So to understand this better, we'll take one example. Imagine that we are having a meeting with the set of faculty members and students regarding the e-learning, effectiveness of e-learning in this lockdown period. Suppose 20 of the students and staff has joined the discussion. Each of them are having the annual family income of rupees 10 lakhs. So the average annual family income of those who are attending the meeting currently is rupees 10 lakhs. After some time, more surprisingly, our superstar, Mr. Rajinikanth, has also joined in the discussion to motivate our students and faculty members. Let us assume that for the sake of this scenario, he has an annual family income of rupees 100 crores. So once he started interacting with the team, the average annual family income of those who are currently participating in the meeting rises to rupees 4.8 crores. Obviously, none of our students and staff who are part of the discussion earlier is richer that much. So if you conclude that we are having a meeting with the members of faculty and students whose annual family income is rupees 4.8 crores, then you will be both statistically correct and grossly misleading. This isn't a discussion where multimillionaires participate. This is a meeting with a group of people with relatively low income happens to be participating in the meeting along with our superstar. So for this reason, we have the another statistics called median, which is also going to which can also be used for measuring the middle of the distribution. As you have learned in the last webinar, median divides the distribution into half, meaning half of the observations lie above the mean and half lie below. Coming back to our e-learning example, if you calculate the median annual family income of those who were initially participating in the meeting, then it is 10 lakhs. Once our superstar joined the meeting, the median annual family income is still rupees 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs is. In our e-learning example, the median is not going to be changed. That is, if there is an outlier, mean is going to be affected, median is not going to be changed. Suppose, if you visualize this by arranging all the participants in ascending order with their family income, then the participant who is sitting at the 11th position, his family income will be the median value. Suppose if our Ulaganayagan, Mr. Kamal Hassan, joins in the meeting with Mr. Rajinikanth and team, then the median annual family income of those who are participating in the meeting doesn't change. It's still the same thing. So for the distributions with outliers, it is affected by the mean, but the median is not going to get changed. So the learning from this thing is there are no serious outliers. then both mean and median will be similar. But if there is an outlier, then based on that, mean will either get increased or decreased. It won't describe the middle of the distribution. In such case, median will be the best choice. So you can understand from this is when to use median and when to use mean. If you are coming back to our printer example, if you get into the second step, then to understand the data better, we may go for a visual representation. Here, because we are going to use only one variable, we can use histograms for that. So this is the visualization. In this graph, so this is the frequency distribution of quality complaints for the competitors' printers. X-axis represents the number of quality problems per printer. Y-axis represents the frequency. Each bin represents the percentage of the printers having the number of quality problems. For example, here 34% of the printers is having 2 defects. And we have around 10% of the printers is having 0 defects likewise. If you see the distribution, it is merely symmetrical. So the mean and median is relatively close to each other. The small number of printers is having relatively high number of defects. For example, here see around 2% to 3% of the printers is having more than 10 quality problems. So this is affecting the mean but not the median. So because of this, what you get the answer is, you come out with the answer as your competitors' printers have a median number of quality problems as 2 compared to your firm's median number of quality problems 1. So if you look into this answer, you got completely different result. That is, your printers perform better than your competitors because your printers having the number of quality problems very low. So because of this reason, you are very curious to find out the frequency distribution of your firm. So you are visualizing it through the graph and you got a result like this. So just if you observe this graph for a few minutes, what you can understand from here is your printers is not having the uniform quality problem because more number of printers are working properly with less number of defects during the warranty period. Around 25% of the printers is having more number of quality problems. See here, more than 30% of the printers is having only one problem. 25% of the printers is having no problem at all during the warranty period. So what you can conclude from here is, and what you can report to your bosses, your firm printers is working properly and is having lower number of defects compared to your competitors. But only thing is, you have to fix, what you have to fix is, you have to check where is the problem for coming for this alarming number of defects, which kind of printers and where it is coming. You no need to restructure the entire manufacturing process. You have to look into only this 25% of the printers. This is what you have to report to your boss. So with the help of this example, you can understand what is mean and what is median and how it can be applied in the case studies like this. So neither the mean nor the median is hard to calculate. The key is determining which measure of the middle is more accurate in a particular situation. What about the limitations of central tendency? See, in most of the cases, it is very important to check the variability or how the data varies from the center. That needs to be checked because mean, median and mode, it is going to give about the information about only the center of the data. None of this measurement is going to tell about how widely the data is dispersed from the mean. If we take two different data sets, one data set, the points may be more clustered around the mean. The other data set may have, the values may have widely dispersed from the mean, from the center. So measuring the variability is important. So we are going to see with example that why this measuring the dispersion or the variability is important. I'll take an example. There is a car dealership company. In that, there is a dealer who wants to go with the target marketing process. So for that purpose, he's just examining the more number of cities with their average household incomes. Among that, two cities are having the average household income of rupees 75 lakhs and rupees 78 lakhs approximately. Both are having roughly equal number of populations. So in such case, what we need to help with that particular car dealer is which city he is supposed to target to increase the profit. That is what we need to check. His constraint is whichever city is having more number of houses with more than 70 lakhs household income, that city he is preferring. So how we can help him to select that city? Now, think. In this case, we may be tempted to tell him the answer that let him go for city 2 because it is having the high average value, which is 78 lakhs. But we need to think because it may be a false impression, because the average value is not going to tell anything about the dispersion or how the data is distributed. See, this is the city 2 and we have some sample number of houses with their average household income. If you observe the data very closely, what you can understand is maximum number of houses are having less than 70 lakhs of average household income. Then how come the average is 78 lakhs? Because there is very few houses with huge household income that pulls the average into high value. If we just represent this graphically, we can understand better. See, more number of houses are having very less household income, that is less than our target market boundary. But only few number of houses is having more household income, which is pulling the mean in the right side. So that is how we got a false impression. If we get into city 1 and if you observe this data, more surprisingly, even though the average household income is less compared to city 2, here more number of houses are having the household income which is greater than 70 lakhs. So the right choice or the best option for the car dealer to have this target marketing as city 2. So this is what we can understand from this example. So if you see this graph, we can understand that more number of values, that is more maximum number of, or nearly all the households are nearer to the mean value or closely clustered around the mean. That is why this city, choosing city 1 will be the better option. Okay, so till now, what we have learned is what is the restriction in central tendency and when to use mean and when to use median, and why the measuring of variability or the dispersion is important. Now we will see how to calculate those variabilities. We have 4 different kinds of measures under variability: variance, standard deviation, z-score, as well as coefficient of variation. First, we start with calculating variance and standard deviation. We'll take an example. We have set of values here 0, 1, 2, 2, 3, 10. Likewise, we have set of x values. If we represent this in histogram, I hope everybody know what is histogram. This is for visualizing one variable. In x-axis, we have set of values. Y-axis represents the frequency. Here, if we calculate the average value for this data set, it is 3. Here, in this example, we are going to see how to calculate the variance. So what is variance is how dispersed the data are from the center. That is called as variability. So how to start calculating this? The steps are, we have to take the mean value and how far each observation is from the mean. That distance we have to calculate. For example, here is the mean value is 3, the observation is 10, so 10 minus 3 is equal to 7. Likewise, if we take this observation, the value is 0, the average is 3, so 0 minus 3 is equal to minus 3. Likewise, for each point, we have to calculate that distance. Here it comes as minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, etc. So once after calculating this, we have to square that difference. Then we have to add those differences, square differences. So we'll be getting some value. So why we are going for squaring these values? So without squaring the differences, we just add the numbers, it will be 0 because there are more positive and negative values. So positive and negatives will cancel out each other. So we'll be getting a 0 value. So to avoid this, we are squaring the terms and then we are adding it. The formula for calculating the variance is sum of square differences divided by the number of data points. Here, if we use the population value, then we have to use n. We have to divide that by n because here we are using samples. We are dividing by n minus 1. So you don't need to bother about all those things because this is just to understand what is variance. Otherwise, all our statistical packages will take care of calculating all these values. So why we use n minus 1 is to avoid the biased calculations. So if we use n minus 1, we will be getting unbiased estimate of the population value. So here, if we apply all the values in this formula, we will be getting the answer as 12.8. This is what our variance is for this example. Okay. Now, one problem or one inconvenience in this variability is the measurement will be in terms of squared things. That is, because we are squaring of the terms, the answer will also be in square. For example, if the data is in dollar, then the variance will be in dollar square. If the data is in rupees, then the variance will be in rupees square. If it is in centimeter, it will be in centimeter square, likewise. So to avoid this, we have to take a square root of variance. So we'll be ending up with standard deviation. So the measurement of the standard deviation will be as similar to the data points. In this example, the standard deviation is 3.6. If you take this graph, most of the points are clustered around the mean, so we'll be getting very less standard deviation. If you see this graph, the points are more dispersed from the center, so it is having higher standard deviation. Actually, we no need to calculate all these things by hand. We have our statistical packages. We can use any kind of packages, as I told you. You can use Excel, R, SPSS, Python, etc. For this example and simplicity, we'll be using Excel to calculate variance and standard deviation. Now we will see how to calculate this. See, in this sheet, we have list of data. We have an oil consumption for each countries. List of countries. For each country's oil consumption in terms of millions of barrels per day is available. So for this data set, how are we going to calculate the variance? Just we have to press equal to, then variance var.s. Why we use .s instead of .p is because most of the time we will be handling with the sample data. So we have to use yes. And just we have to select all the numbers. That's all. Within a very few keystrokes, we got a result. No more hand calculations. Any kind of tool you can use for this case. Likewise, we can calculate the standard deviation by using a formula stdev.s. Just we have to select. Excel will help us with just listing out the number of possibilities. Just we have to select this and we have to pass the parameter as the input. That's all. So this simple it is. So we can calculate the variance and standard deviation like this. Now, how to calculate z-score and how it is related with variance. See, the variance is in squared measurement, and if you take the square root, you will be getting a standard deviation, and standard deviation will be as similar to the data point measurement. Z-score is how many standard deviations from the mean the particular observation is, that is called as z-score. Here the measurement is number of standard deviations away. So it is the distance from the mean by the number of standard deviations away. For example, we can say the particular observation is 3 standard deviation from the mean, 2 standard deviation from the mean, or 1 standard deviation from the mean. Likewise, we can say that is called as z-score. It is a standardized way of measurement. The formula for calculating this is just data point minus mean. That is the difference between the mean and data point divided by the standard deviation. That's it. Next, we will get into coefficient of variation. So what is this? Why we need to get into this? If we want to calculate the variability within a single data set, then we will be using standard deviation. Suppose if we have 2 different data sets, and we want to compare the variability between those 2 different data sets, then you have to use coefficient of variation. In this example, we want to check and compare the share market volatility. We have the share prices and share price volatility. We need to check which stock is having, which stock is more volatile, that we need to identify. For example, here we have stock A and stock B. Both stocks is having same standard deviation. The value is $4.5 with different means. So in this case, how are we going to calculate the variability? This is just the ratio between standard deviation and the mean. See, coefficient of variation is equal to standard deviation by mean. In our example, if you just check the output, stock A is more volatile than stock B. So this is how we can make use of the coefficient of variation. So till now, we saw about what is measures of variability, what are all the different kinds of measures in that, and how to calculate those values. Now we are getting into the next topic, that is bivariate relationships. Bi means 2, variate means variable. So between 2 variables, do we have a relationship or not? So how to check that? For measuring that, we are going to use 3 kinds of measurements. One is covariance, covariance matrix, as well as correlation. We'll start with covariance. If you just observe this graph, what you can understand from this? So this is a scatter plot. And why we use scatter plot? Because we are going to compare 2 variables. One is, in this example, one is workers, the other one is this number of tables produced. See, number of workers and the number of tables produced. What is the relationship? By visualizing, just by looking into this picture, is it possible to identify any patterns? Yes. So whenever there is an increase in the number of workers, there is an increase in the table production also. So we can clearly see the linear relationship between these two variables, that is workers and number of tables produced. So whenever one variable is increasing, the other variable is also increases. Whenever one variable is decreasing, the number of workers is decreasing, there is a decrease in the other variable also. So the variables change together, it will increase together and it is decreasing together. So co-vary. So change together or doesn't change together. That is called as covariance. Now we'll see how to calculate the covariance. So here we have the example data set. One column we have list of workers, the number of workers. The other column it represents the number of tables produced. For example, 12 workers produced 20 tables. 24 workers produced 50 tables likewise. So now we need to check whether there is a relationship between two variables with the help of covariance calculation. Just press equal to and type covariance.s. And we have to give the input as array 1 and array 2. Array 1 is number of workers. Array 2 is number of tables produced. You got a result as 106.93. So what it signifies? How can we interpret this? See here what this 106 represents. Here we have a sign. Mainly covariance will give us the direction of the relationship. Here we have a positive sign. So it is positive 106.93. So it means there is a positive relationship between workers and number of tables produced. It means whenever the number of workers is increasing, the number of table will also increase. Whenever one variable is decreasing, the other variable will also decrease. That is called as directionality. If we use covariance, we can measure directionality clearly. If the value is close to 0, then there may not be any linear relationship. That is what we can understand from this. What is covariance matrix? See, if we have only two variables and if we want to measure the relationship between that, then we can use covariance. We have more number of variables. In this case, we have around 6 number of variables. So among each pair of variable, we want to check whether there is a positive or negative relationship, then we can get into this covariance matrix. So here, we take the diagonal values. The diagonal elements represents the relationship with itself. See number of male visitors, here also it is number of male visitors. So this value means it is equal to variance. So if we take a data set of number of male visitors, if we calculate the variance, it will be exactly same as this value because the variable relates with itself. So that is called as variance. If we take the non-diagonal elements, that will give us the covariance. That is, what is the relationship between number of female visitors and number of male visitors. So this relationship is given by this number. Here, mostly all the covariance results are having the positive value. So it is the answer. It means whenever there is an increase in one value, the other variable also increases. This is what we can understand from this. If you visualize this, then we can get a graph like this. Here the name of the graph is matrix of scatter plots. So whatever we are seeing here numerically or quantitatively, that is what is shown in the form of visualization here. So this is the relationship between the variable with itself, all the diagonal graphs. All the non-diagonal graph indicates the relationship between two different variables. That is, here the pair is x1 with x4. And this graph indicates the relationship between x3 with x6. Likewise, see, if you see this, then somehow we are seeing a positive linear relationship between x4 and x6. Likewise, if we take this, here all the values are scattered, so there may not be any strong relationship between x2 and x3. That is what we can understand from this. Next, we are getting into correlation. What is correlation is, we want to measure the strength of linear relationship between two variables, then we can get into correlation. Here, mainly it provides mainly four things. It is a range. All the correlation values, correlation coefficient values will be between -1 to +1. It is standardized values. And the magnitude, with the help of correlation, we can measure the strength of the relationship. It is possible in correlation, it is not possible in covariances, the magnitude, which is very much important, because in covariance, we can check whether there is a positive or negative relationship, but we don't know how much strong the relationship is. But here in correlation, we can check that. And directionality, whether we have positive or negative relationship. Suppose the value is close to -1, then we can say there is a strong negative relationship. The correlation answer is close to +1, then we can say there is a strong positive relationship. Suppose if the value is close to 0, then we can say there is no linear relationship exists, but there may be non-linear relationship. Correlation and covariance is used only for checking whether there is a linear relationship or not between two variables. Just the example graphs. Here, if you see these observations, these are somehow close with each other. So if you calculate the correlation value, it will be near to +1. For this, whenever there is a decrease in one variable, the other variable will also if one variable is increases, the other variable decreases. So the correlation value is close to -1. That is strong negative relationship. Here there is a strong positive relationship. If both variables are increasing or decreasing in the same direction, that is called as, then the answer will be in near to +1. If both variables are changing in the opposite direction, then the correlation coefficient value will be near to -1. There is no relationship at all. If one variable is changing, it is not affecting the other variable. If there is no change in the other variable, then we can say the answer will be near to 0. See here, the points are just scattered. Sometimes there may be non-linear relationships. See, if the points are like this, there may be quadratic relationship, and this is the example for exponential, and this is for polynomial. But we cannot understand all these things if we use correlation. Correlation will just tell us whether there is a linear relationship or not. But there may or may not be non-linear relationships. Just comparison between the covariance and correlation. In covariance, it is telling about directionality. But if we take only about directionality, not the strength, we cannot measure the strength with the help of covariance. But if you check the correlation, we can measure both direction as well as strength. If we check the covariance, the values or the output of the covariance is having no upper bound or the lower bound. The value may be anything based on the observations. But if you see the correlation coefficient, the values will be only between -1 and +1. It won't exceed beyond that. Then the size is dependent on the scale of the variables. Here the scale is independent of the scale of the variables. Covariance is not standardized. Correlation is standardized. How we can compare the correlation with the covariance and how to calculate the correlation. See, if you calculate the covariance and if you know what is your standard deviation for both variables, then with the help of this formula, you can calculate the correlation coefficient. Even if there is no covariance available, we can directly calculate the correlation also. But you don't need to remember about all these formulas. Our tools will do this. So before getting into all those things, we will see one more example to understand whether the correlation coefficient is reliable always, or how much we can believe or we can have a right impression if we use correlation. If you just imagine that you are working as a manager in some concern, and in there the number of employees, there are more number of employees, and there is more absenteeism among the employees. That is, you are having a suspect that whenever there is a high temperature, the absence is increasing. So you have some doubt in that. So you want to check whether that fact is true or not. So you start collecting the data for that. Then you calculate the correlation coefficient. And you got the answer as 0.47. So what you can tell from this answer? Because just now we saw about correlation and the value is between -1 to +1. So this is around 0.47. So what you can understand from this? Is there any strong relationship? No, there is no strong relationship, but still there is a positive relationship among these two variables between absence and temperature. So if you are coming to the conclusion that your staffs are enjoying the weather and only because of that they are taking more leave, if you come to the conclusion like that, it may be false, because correlation coefficient most of the times it will be incomplete, or it may be giving false impressions if you are not analyzing it properly. So we need to go for the next step, that is by visualizing the data. Here we use scatter plot for that because we have two different variables. Just observe this graph. But you can understand, x-axis we have daily high temperature in terms of Fahrenheit. Y-axis represents the number of absences. Can you see any pattern here? Pattern means there is uniform increase or decrease. Is there anything here? So most of the observations are scattered, dispersed so widely, we cannot see any pattern here. But there is some 3 points which are in the extreme case. So here we could see something. So what we can understand from this graph is there are 3 outliers. Outlier means extreme values. These 3 are the extreme values. So if there is an extreme value like this, and we have some suspicion here, because if you just see this graph, we couldn't see any relationship, but our correlation coefficient is saying that there is a positive relationship between these two variables. So you are going back to your records and you are checking what these 3 observations represents. And after some time, what you can understand is these 3 observations are coming from the days where there was a transportation strike. 3 days transportation strike. During that time, most of the employees were at home, so they didn't turn back. So now, in this case, what to do? Are we going to remove this just like that? Or are we going to retain these values in our graph and continue with the same? So we have to think for a while. We need to check what is our problem is. Here our problem is we need to check whether there is any relationship or whether there is any link between the absence and the temperature. That is, whenever there is an increase in temperature, whether there is absenteeism increases, whether our employees are enjoying the temperature. So we need to check that, whether they are enjoying the weather. So we need to check that suspect. So this is completely different from the transportation strike. So here, what we need to do is we have to remove these outliers from this. So once we do this, see, more surprisingly, our correlation coefficient drops to 0. So it means actually there is no relationship between daily high temperature as well as the absences. So because of this outlier, our correlation coefficient has been given the false impression. So these three are the invalid data. So what we can understand here is as like the mean, because mean is more prone to outliers. The correlation coefficient is strongly affected by the outliers, because whenever there is an extreme values, the correlation coefficient calculation will give more importance for that. It will give more strength to those values. So whenever there is an outlier, the correlation coefficient is going to give us the false impression at the wrong values. The outcome will be the wrong. So we need to check this carefully and we need to come to the conclusion. Okay, how to calculate this correlation? We'll see the demo. We'll take the same example as like the previous one we used for covariance. The number of workers, the relationship between the number of workers and the number of tables produced. So simultaneously we can compare the covariance result as well as correlation result also. Just press equal to and we have to use the formula CORREL. That's all. Then we have to pass two parameters. One is the number of workers is first array, then the number of tables produced is the second array. That's all. So now we got the result as 0.98 time. So within very few keystrokes we got the result. But the important thing is how are we going to interpret this? What this value is telling us. Because this is very close to +1, what we can conclude here is the number of workers and the number of table produced is having the strong relationship with each other. That is, whenever there is an increase in number of workers, the number of tables produced is also increases. That we can see here. Even see, just observe here. The number of workers is 12. The number of tables produced is 20. If we have 30 workers, then the number of tables produced is 60. So relatively, whenever there is an increase in one variable, the other variable will also increase. So there is a strong, positive, linear relationship between these two variables. That is what we can understand from this correlation. But covariance is telling there is a positive relationship between these two variables. That's all. Nothing else it will tell. Whether the relationship is strong or not strong, that we cannot measure. It's just 106. 106 means it is plus 106. So what we can understand is there is a positive relationship. That's all. But if you take the correlation, because it gives us the range, the magnitude, the nonlinearity, as well as the directionality. 4 things the correlation will help us. So again, what we can conclude here is there is a strong positive linear relationship between the variables, number of workers and the number of tables produced. So this is how we can calculate the correlation. So what we saw today is we have started with the purpose. The purpose of this webinar is the main focus is which kind of descriptive statistics will be the most appropriate in specific situations and how it can be misleading if used wrongly. So we have started with that purpose, and what we saw is when to use mean and when to use median, and what is the limitations of central tendency, and what is the importance of getting into variability, and how to calculate the variability. We saw about in terms of variance, standard deviation, z-score, and coefficient of variation. Then we saw about how to measure or how to check whether there is a relationship between two variables or not through covariance, covariance matrix, as well as correlation. As you learned in this webinar, to analyze the large data sets, one should have both mathematical understanding as well as conceptual understanding. This is a very valuable skill for all kinds of persons who may be a manager, data scientist, or a researcher, or those who want to get into, who aspire to get into artificial intelligence field, etc. So all these persons have to have this skill set. So as per the Tirukural, தொட்டனை தூரும் மணற்கேணி மாந்தர்க்கு கற்றனை தூரும் அறிவு. I hope all of you make a significant investments in statistics and gain substantial benefits in return. Thank you.